Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya
Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Jaya Sri
Sri
Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Jaya
Jaya
Nityananda
Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya
Jaya
Dvaita
Dvaita
Chandra
Chandra
Jaya
Jaya
Gaura
Gaura
Bhakta
Bhakta Vrinda.
Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai.
Jai
Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Samaveta Gaur Bhakta Vrind ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome to
You
today's.
wanted to read Vaman Dev's pastime?
So today is Ekadasi. Ekadasi, there is no celebration for Vamandev at the temple. We fast because Dwadasi is the day of Vamandev's appearance and you're not supposed to fast on Dwadasi. That is why on Ekadasi we are observing the fasting. But the actual day of celebration is Dwadasi. So how about if we read about Vamandev on your Dwadasi tomorrow morning during Bhagavatam?
Okay, Mataji, your choice. We were deciding, that's why I was telling you.
That
Yeah,
is
yeah,
good,
yeah.
Mataji.
So reading
That is,
tomorrow is good.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. And the other alternative was because there are several chapters, uh, it's not directly speaking about Vamandev, but the background is given how there's a war and all that before. So if we read all that today and then in the morning we'll read about Vamandev, that's other option, like building up.
Arunita is in favor of that.
Of
Arunita is in favor
Vamadevs.
of both the days, yeah. But your
Okay.
choice, Mataji, ultimately, your choice.
Okay. Okay. Nilambari Mataji, what are you saying?
Whatever you decide, Mataji, I don't have any.
Same, huh? Yeah, what I decide is I don't want to give up on Chaitanya Lila. I want to,
That's fine. Your decision is the final decision. I don't have any
yeah.
any
I mean,
choice.
that's my.
Okay.
I don't want to. Yeah. So let's read a little bit of Chaitanya Charitamrita and we'll see. So we'll do justice to this. Maybe we'll read that also after this, but let's read this first. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Okay. 3 days. Oh, we got a weekend in between. Okay. Okay, so we're reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 1. This is still the synopsis of the Shesha Lila. Shesha Lila means it includes Madhya Lila and Antya Lila. So, Shesha Lila is about the Lord's pastimes after he accepted sannyas and how 6 years of that he spent traveling. Remaining 18 years he was in Puri continuously, and of those 18 years also for 6 years he was preaching. So in Hare Krishna Chitpriya Mataji, we are still reading Caitanya Charitamrita, and then if we have time, we might read Vamandev's background a little bit today. And because tomorrow is the actual Dwadasi, Vaman appearance day, during Srimad Bhagavatam class, we'll be reading about Vamandev, just in case. Because I announced in the morning, I think I thought I'll just let you know.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji. Okay. So, Mahaprabhu, for 6 years he preached. So during that time he also sent different devotees. He sent Nityananda Prabhu to Bengal. Nityananda Prabhu inundated Bengal in bhakti. And then Rup Sanatan Goswamis were sent to Vrindavan, and they wrote many books there on the order of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the books written by the Goswamis, that's the topic we have been reading. So we saw the books written by Sanatan Goswami, the books written by Rup Goswami, and now we are seeing the books written by Jiva Goswami. In that, specifically, we are looking at the Shat Sandarbhas. That is what we are reading now. And there also we read the purport, part of the purport. In Sri Bhagavad Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami has written conclusively about the ultimate end of devotional service. So we were discussing how in Shat Sandarbhas or the Bhagavad Sandarbhas, there are 6 Sandarbhas. There is Tattva Sandarbha, Bhagavad Sandarbha, Paramatma Sandarbha, Krishna Sandarbha, Bhakti Sandarbha, and Preeti Sandarbha. And then we also discussed what is the subject matter of each of them. Then, so Srila Prabhupada in the purport explained what you find in so in Tattva Sandarbha, Srimad Bhagavatam is established as the ultimate authority, ultimate pramana. In Bhagavad Sandarbha, there are several topics discussed, right? So you see the distinction between impersonal Brahman and localized Paramatma. So Bhagavad Sandarbha is telling you about Brahman and about Bhagavan. And so the distinction between Brahman and localized Paramatma describes the spiritual world and the domination of the mode of goodness. So the spiritual world is in Shuddha Sattva. So that Shuddha Sattva is described in Bhagavad Sandarbha. Then also the potency of the Lord and the potency of the living entity, that is also described. So the difference between the Lord and the living entity. There's a description of the inconceivable energies. You see the Lord has internal, marginal, external energies. So the description of these energies is also given in Bhagavad Sandarbha. So it's an elaborate work. So like that. Also, so we saw difference between Brahman and Paramatma, but also difference between Brahman and Bhagavan is also given there in Bhagavad Sandarbha. Then the third one is Paramatma Sandarbha. In Paramatma Sandarbha, we'll see. So I think that's where we begin today. Okay, this paragraph. The third Sandarbha is called Paramatma Sandarbha, and in this book there is a description of Paramatma, the super soul, and an explanation of how the super soul exists in millions and millions of living entities. There are discussions of the differences between the qualitative incarnations and discourses concerning the living entities, Maya, the material world, the theory of transformation, the illusory energy, the sameness of this world, and the super soul. The sameness of this world and the super soul. In what way they are same? Because the super soul appears only in the material world. There is no Paramatma or super soul in the spiritual world. There is Bhagavan in the spiritual world. You don't find Paramatma in the spiritual world. So the sameness of this world and the super soul and the truth about this material world. In this connection, the opinions of Sridhar Swami are given. It is stated, who is Sridhar Swami? He is the original author of the commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam, Sridhar Swami. It is stated that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although devoid of material qualities, superintends all material activities. He himself has no material qualities, yet he is Mayadhyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. Under my superintendence, this material world is creating all the moving and non-moving beings, Krishna tells. So in what way? Not directly Krishna, uh, but Krishna's expansion as Paramatma under the supervision of Paramatma. So although the Lord as Paramatma does not have any material qualities, still he's how the Leela avatar incarnations respond to the desires of the devotees. So there are Leela avatars. The Lord descends from time to time. Also, these avatars are coming from the Paramatma, Kshirodakashai Vishnu. And how these Leela avatars are responding to the desires of the devotees, and how the Supreme Personality of Godhead is characterized by 6 opulences. All these topics are discussed in Paramatma Sandarbha. So mainly, what did you understand? What is the subject matter of Paramatma? You'll find a description of Paramatma, and also because Paramatma comes to this material world, you will see about the material world, and the different activities happening here, the living entities, the jivas, conditioned souls in this material world. So you will see the nature of the jiva is also studied in the Paramatma Sandarbha. The 4th Sandarbha is called Krishna Sandarbha. Krishna Sandarbha. And in this book, Krishna is proved to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You read about Bhagavan in Bhagavad Sandarbha, but Bhagavan means you have, in the context of the completeness of Bhagavan in relation to Paramatma and Brahman, that is seen. But specifically, particularly only Krishna, and that too Krishna of Golok Vrindavan Dham. He is the ultimate. Where do you find that? In Krishna Sandarbha. So the 4th Sandarbha is called Krishna Sandarbha. So, many times devotees ask questions, when we are challenged, why only Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Why not Lord Vishnu? Things like that. So all these questions will be answered in Krishna Sandarbha. And we also saw in Srila Rupa Goswami's Laghu Bhagavatamrita also it is established. This is Jiva Goswami's work, Krishna Sandarbha. Jiva Goswami is a student of Rupa Goswami. Okay. And Rupa Goswami is the direct student of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay. So the 4th Sandarbha is called Krishna Sandarbha, and in this book, Krishna is proved to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are discussions of Krishna's pastimes and qualities. Krishna's pastimes and qualities. His superintendence of the Purusha avatars, right? He is the origin of even the Purusha avatars. Who are Purusha avatars? Karanodakashai, forth. So all this is found in Krishna Sandarbha. Swami, supremacy of Krishna is stressed. Baladev, Sankarshan and other expansions of Krishna are emanations of Mahasankarshan. All the incarnations and expansions exist simultaneously in the body of Krishna, who is described as two-handed. There are also descriptions of the Goloka planet, Vrindavan, the eternal place of Krishna, the identity of Goloka and Vrindavan, the Yadavas and the cowherd boys, both eternal associates of Krishna, the equality of the manifest and unmanifest pastimes. So when Krishna comes means when he manifests, he's always there everywhere. He's performing pastimes. But the pastimes are manifest during that particular time. So 5,000 years ago, his pastimes are manifest. They are visible to everyone, not only to his liberated devotees, but to everyone. So, but what is the difference between the manifest pastimes and unmanifest pastimes? The equality is seen here. Sri Krishna's manifestation in Gokula, the queens of Dwaraka as expansions of the internal potency, and superior to them the super excellent gopis. There is also a list of the gopis' names and a discussion of the topmost position of Srimati Radharani. So that also you'll find, right? What is the position of Srimati Radharani? Where do you find it? Krishna Sandarbha. And the fifth Sandarbha is called Bhakti Sandarbha. And in this book, there is a discussion of how devotional service can be directly executed and how such service can be adjusted either directly or indirectly. Bhakti Sandarbha is about the actual, devotional service, how we should proceed and what are the challenges we face and how to solve them, like that. So in this book, there is a discussion of how devotional service can be directly executed. It's about performing devotional service and how such service can be adjusted either directly or indirectly. There is a discussion of the knowledge of all kinds of scriptures, the establishment of the Vedic institution of Varnashram, Bhakti as superior to fruitive activity, and so forth. It is also stated that without devotional service, even a Brahmana is condemned. There are, like here, we are reading now in Bhagavatam about Ambarish Maharaj and Durvasa Muni's episode. Durvasa Muni is a Brahmana, but he was not a devotee. So according to Bhakti Sandarbha, without devotional service, even a Brahmana is condemned. There are discussions of the process of karma tyaga, the giving up of the results of karma to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, karma tyaga, and the practices of mystic yoga and philosophical speculation. So, all these processes, jnana path, bhakti path, and so mainly there are two paths. There is jnana and there is bhakti, and there is our position is we are all doing karma. Some people take to jnana, some people take to bhakti. And there is, of course, Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga can be performed on the jnana side and it can also be performed on not exactly bhakti path, but it can be used as a tool, like Dhruv Maharaj did, right? So Ashtanga Yoga can be used as a tool because in Ashtanga Yoga, Dhyanam, meditation on the Supreme Lord, that is a bhakti process. That is there both in bhakti also, Smaranam, and in Ashtanga Yoga, Dhyanam. So there they will come together. But anyway, all these processes are described very systematically, very scientifically, so there won't be any confusion. If you study Bhakti Sandarbha, then you can understand the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, of Bhagavad Gita, what is being said. The picture will immediately come to your mind. When you hear a particular verse of Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, immediately you can understand where this verse fits and who is this verse talking about. Is he talking about the person in jnana? Is he talking about the person in bhakti? Is he talking about the person who's in karma tyaga stage, nishkama karma yoga, like that? So very, very scientifically, Srila Jiva Goswami has given the whole process. So it is also stated that without devotional service, even a Brahmana is condemned. There are discussions of the process of karma tyaga, the giving of the results of karma to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the practices of mystic yoga and philosophical speculation, which are deprecated as simply hard labor. Worship of the demigods is discouraged. The worship of a Vaishnava is considered exalted. No respect is given to the non-devotees. So non-devotees means anyone. He can be a jnani, he can be a yogi, he can be a karmi. If he's not a devotee, then yeah, no credit is given there. There are discussions of how one can be liberated even in this life, Jivan Mukta, Lord Shiva as a devotee, and how a bhakta and his devotional service are eternally existing. So Srila Prabhupada is going down the list of all the topics that you'll find in this book. Okay? I forgot to send a reminder. I think that's why Priyanka Mataji didn't join. Okay. There are discussions of how one can be liberated even in this life. Lord Shiva as a devotee and how a bhakta and his devotional service are eternally existing. Bhakti is eternal. Whatever devotional service you do, it is eternally existing. It's not like karma. You get a reaction and it is finished. It is stated that through bhakti one can attain all success because bhakti is transcendental to the material qualities. There is a discussion of how the self is manifest through bhakti. By performing bhakti, there is self-realization. The self is manifested. There is also a discussion of the self's bliss as well as how bhakti, even imperfectly executed, yeah, that's called bhakti abhas. Very nicely it is explained. Abhasa. You're not even doing your devotional service, but there is that abhasa, right? Still you get the result. The example of that is that rat, a mouse, that was, he was not direct, like you're not doing bhakti with any intention, but because bhakti is swarupa siddha, by nature it is bhakti, whether you know about it or not, right? Like in Rath Yatra, somebody just comes and accidentally you just eat prasad and you walk away. You're not even thinking, oh, this is the Mahaprasad of the Lord, let me honor this. No, somebody, but that honoring prasadam itself is sakshat bhakti, because that prasad, it's the uh, it's the food which is tasted by Krishna. So prasada means prasada, Prabhu ka sakshat darshan, prasad, Prabhu ka sakshat darshan. You're directly coming in touch with the Supreme Lord when you're honoring prasadam. So that is sakshat bhakti, direct devotional service. Unknowingly somebody does that, and that also gives results. He'll get liberation. So there are examples for that. So nicely with evidence, any statement which is made, it's not just made like that. With evidence, primarily from Srimad Bhagavatam and also supported by statements from Vishnu Purana and other so many Puranas, you will actually see the genius of Jiva Goswami. How many scriptures he quotes from. Even our computers are not, they cannot match Srila Jiva Goswami's brilliance. They didn't have any database, they didn't have any, they used to write on palm leaves, imagine. And he's so brilliant that he can quote from any scripture. And exactly for that particular case, right? So he's bringing out so many points. Whatever there is to know, everything is put in those about bhakti about the Supreme Lord or about the living entities. Everything is there in those 6 sandarbhas, properly giving evidence from Shastra, even establishing right in the very beginning, establishing Shastra as the highest pramana, tattva sandarbha, and then systematically quoting from Shastra for every statement that he makes. So therefore, so many devotees do PhDs in the Shat Sandarbhas. So there are discussions of, one second, I forget where we were. Yes, bhakti performed even imperfectly. There is also a discussion of the self's bliss as well as how bhakti, even imperfectly executed, enables one to attain the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unmotivated devotional service is highly praised, and an explanation, of course, unknowingly you perform, you get a result, but that doesn't mean everyone should simply do that. I'll just eat prasad unknowingly because it is prasad, I'll get. What is liberation? Pure devotees, pure devotional service is compared to an ocean that has no depth, ocean of ananda. Bhakti rasa amrita sindhu is an ocean of amrita. Bhakti rasa is an ocean of amrita, and liberation is like a drop. So if somebody wants to settle with liberation, what can we say? Those who are devotees, they don't care for liberation. They want love. They want bhakti for Krishna. So, but abhasa bhakti, if somebody does unknowingly, they do. Still, bhakti is so powerful. You can get liberation. And for that liberation, to get that liberation, Panthastu koti shatavatsara sampragamyo vayo rathapi manaso munipungavanam. That these munis, they drill their breathing processes, control their mind. The yogis, how hard they have to work to get that liberation. And bahunam janmanam, and many lifetimes the gyanis continue like this. It's not easy. But simply by abhasa bhakti, abhasa means not even real bhakti. Unknowingly someone has done it. Even for that he will get result. How? So very thoroughly he has established the supremacy of bhakti and how simple it is to perform and how the results are guaranteed. Guaranteed. Nobody can give such guarantee in the material world, even though they say. But bhakti, very simple, but very sublime. And that is established very thoroughly in Bhakti Sandarbha. Okay. So there's a discussion of how the self's bliss as well as how bhakti, even imperfectly executed, enables one to attain the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unmotivated devotional service is highly praised. That is Anyabhilashita Shunyam. And an explanation is given of how each devotee can achieve the platform of unmotivated service by association with other devotees, right? So there is Ananya Bhakti, there is Sadhu Prakara, types of sadhus. Why we have to know types of sadhus? To know who to associate with, because it is all, the whole thing is about association. It's a game of association. You become what you associate with. So if you look for the right association, your most of the work is done, because in that association you'll make good progress. And if you're not in right association, then you'll be stuck there. There is a discussion of the difference between the Mahabhagavat and the ordinary devotee. This is Sadhu Prakara, types of sadhus. Mahabhagavat and ordinary devotee. The symptoms of philosophical speculation, the symptoms of self-worship or ahangrahopasana. If you remember, we had discussed these things. The symptoms of devotional service, the symptoms of imaginary perfection, right? Vimukta manina, they think that they are liberated, imaginary perfection. The acceptance of regulative principles, service to the spiritual master, the Mahabhagavat liberated devotee, service to him, service to Vaishnavas in general, principles of offensive effects, prayers, engaging oneself in as in, so this is like Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. Systematically, each one will be discussed elaborately, right? So then, offensive effects, prayers, Vandanam, engaging oneself as an eternal servant of the Lord, Dasyam, making friendships with the Lord, Sakyam, and surrendering everything for his pleasure, Atma Nivedanam. There is also a discussion of Raganuga Bhakti. So we are seeing Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Most of the discussion is about Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti because it applies to us. But also a little bit is discussed about Raganuga Bhakti. Raganuga Bhakti, spontaneous devotional service. Even when one follows Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, from there he can go to Raganuga Bhakti after Ruchi stage. But there are certain devotees, there's Vichara Pradhana and Ruchi Pradhana. Vichara Pradhana devotees means they need discussion of philosophy. That is Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti from the beginning. Ruchi Pradhana devotees, they don't need any discussion of philosophy. They directly have a taste for Krishna's Leela. So their path is different. It's not like us, Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya. No, they don't go through these stages. Their stages are different because they're already starting off with Raganuga Bhakti, Ruchi Pradhana devotees. So the difference between Ruchi Pradhana and the Vichara Pradhana devotees is also discussed there. Towards the end, we'll see that. There is also a discussion of Raganuga Bhakti, spontaneous love of Godhead, of the specific purpose of becoming a devotee of Lord Krishna, and a comparative study of other perfectional stages. All that is seen in Bhakti Sandarbha. I'll read the last paragraph also. The sixth Sandarbha is called Preeti Sandarbha, a thesis on love of Godhead. So if you remember, I told you these 6 Sandarbhas can be divided into 3 sections. Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana. Sambandha is the first 4 Sandarbhas. Tattva Sandarbha, Bhagavad Sandarbha, Paramatma Sandarbha, Krishna Sandarbha. This is Sambandha. Bhakti Sandarbha is Abhideya and Priti Sandarbha is Prayojana, the result, right? Love of Godhead. Priti Sandarbha is talking about love of God. The sixth Sandarbha is called Priti Sandarbha, a thesis on love of Godhead. Here it is stated that through love of Godhead, one becomes perfectly liberated and attains the highest goal of life. Through love of Godhead, one becomes perfectly liberated and attains the highest goal of life. A distinction is made between the liberated condition of a personalist and that of an impersonalist, right? The Jnanis and the Bhaktas. What is the type of liberation achieved by the Jnanis? By Bhaktas. And there is a discussion of liberation during one's lifetime as distinguished from liberation from material bondage. Of all kinds of liberation, liberation and loving service to the Lord is described as the most exalted. So, liberation means to get love of Godhead, that is liberation. Really. What is that one? Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na sochati na kankshati samah sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. After Brahma Bhuta, after getting liberation, then mad bhaktim labhate. One will get bhakti. So what is real liberation? If you get bhakti means you're already liberated, and that is the best type of liberation. To get bhakti. To get bhakti for the Supreme Lord is in itself the highest type of liberation. If you are engaged in devotional service to Krishna, that itself is the highest type of liberation. Then you will say, then why we are still having sufferings in this world? Because we are not yet doing. It's like Srila Prabhupada gives the example of raw green mango and ripe mango. Green mango is still mango, but you cannot yet relish the sweetness. It has to stay on the tree for some time, and eventually it will be ripened. Then you will taste. So that ripened mango is prema, right? When you become ripened mango, then, but nevertheless, because you are doing bhakti, you cannot say it is not bhakti. So green mango is like the sadhana bhakti. The ripened mango is bhava prema bhakti, like that. Okay. So the immediate liberation is contrasted with liberation by a gradual process. Oh, sorry. Liberated condition of a personalist and that of an impersonalist is discussed. There is a discussion of liberation during one's lifetime as distinguished from liberation from material bondage. Yeah, simply becoming liberated from material bondage, merging into Brahman is different. Of all kinds of liberation, liberation and loving service to the Lord is described as the most exalted. And meeting the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face is shown to be the highest perfection of life. Remember, only when you come to prema stage, after that only you can get Bhagavad Darshanam. That is the highest perfection. Immediate liberation is contrasted with liberation by a gradual process. Both realization of Brahman and meeting with the Supreme Personality of Godhead are described as liberation within one's lifetime. But meeting with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, both internally and externally. If you remember, internally, we discussed that part, how through Spuranam, within your heart, Spuranam, within your heart, you're actually, like the Lord enters, as in Bhagavad Gita we discussed, right? He enters into the buddhi vritti of the devotee, and there he manifests himself. Internally, the devotee is experiencing the Lord, not outside face to face. So internally and externally. Externally comes, that is highest perfection. Bhagavad Sakshatkar happens after prema. But even in bhava stage, one can actually experience the Lord internally. So both internally and externally, meeting the Lord internally and externally is shown to be super excellent above the transcendental realization of the Brahman effulgence. There is a comparative study of liberation as Salokya, Samipya and Sarupya. Samipya is better than Salokya. Devotional service is considered to be liberation with greater facilities, and there is a discussion of how to obtain it. So devotional service is the highest type of liberation, means it has more facilities than other types of liberation, and how one can get this type of liberation, devotional service. There are also discussions of the transcendental state one achieves after attaining the devotional platform. which is the exact position of love of Godhead, the transcendental state that one achieves after attaining devotional platform. And what is the exact position of love of Godhead? The marginal symptoms of transcendental love and how it is awakened. The distinction between so-called love and transcendental love on the platform of love of Godhead. So this is all talking about Prema Bhakti, Priti Sandarbha, because that is the Prayojana. Transcendental love, so-called love and transcendental love on the platform of love of Godhead, and different types of humors and mellows, rasas, enjoyed in relishing the lusty affairs of the gopis, which are different from mundane affairs, which in turn are symbolical representations of pure love for Krishna. There are also discussions of bhakti mixed with philosophical speculation. These are Mishra Bhakti, Bhakti mixed with Jnana. The super excellence of the love of the gopis, the difference between opulent devotional service and loving devotional service. This is Aishwarya Bhav and Madhurya Bhav. The exalted position of the residents of Gokula, the progressively exalted position of the friends of Krishna, progressively, right? Gopas, gopis, how this person is better than this is better than this. The progressively exalted position, like we see in the gopis, ultimately Srimati Radharani is the topmost, right? But then it is said that of all the gopis, 108 are the best. Of them, 8 of them, like that. Then 2 are topmost. And then of them, Srimati Radharani is the ultimate. Like that. The progressively exalted position of the friends of Krishna, the Gopas and the Gopis, in parental love with Krishna, and finally the super excellence of the love of the Gopis and that of Srimati Radharani. There is also a discussion of how spiritual feelings can be present when one simply imitates them. Spiritual feelings can be present when one simply imitates them, and how such mellows are far superior to the ordinary mellows of mundane love. And there are descriptions of different ecstasies, the awakening of ecstasy, transcendental qualities, the distinction of dhiro datta, the utmost attractiveness of conjugal love, the ecstatic features, the permanent ecstatic features, the mellows divided in 5 transcendental features of direct loving service. Different rasas, right? Dasya, Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, Madhurya. And indirect loving service, considered in 7 divisions. So this is the subject matter of Nectar of Devotion. We went over the 5 or the 4 divisions of Nectar of Devotion: Eastern Division, Southern Division, Northern. So this is the subject matter there also. What are the 5 rasas? What are the 7 secondary rasas? Finally, there is a discussion of overlapping of different rasas, and there are discussions of Shanta, neutrality, servitorship, taking shelter, parental love, conjugal love, direct transcendental enjoyment, and enjoyment in separation, previous attraction, and the glories of Srimati Radharani. So all this is the subject matter of. So the last paragraph is about Priti Sandarbha, and it's concluding in the glories of Srimati Radharani. And the whole purport and this verse is about the 6 Sandarbhas written by Srila Jiva Goswami. And then that's just one. And he's written so many others, Gopala Champu, etc., that we will read later on. So, it's already time. We
can read tomorrow only, Mataji.
We can read tomorrow, right? Okay. But I'm just going over to see. I'll just read the titles here. So we read before Vamandev's pastime, we read about the Samudra Manthan Lila. And in Samudra Manthan Lila, the conclusion was Mohini Murti comes and she gives nectar to the demigods. So the demons are furious and they, they fight and they get defeated, right? So then, because they got defeated, Shukracharya makes him perform some yagyas, and now Bali Maharaj becomes extremely powerful. He conquers the heavenly planets, and now Indra and all the other demigods have to leave because that's Brihaspati tells them, you cannot fight because he's protected by the kavacha of the Brahmana. So then the mother of the demigods is very sad. Some have lost their homes. So then she prays, she looks very weak. And her husband comes home and he sees her in that condition. And then he asks, what happened? What would you like? And then she said, I want my sons to get their kingdom back. So he tried to explain to her, but she was determined. So he said, okay, you do this Payovrata process. By this, you have to worship Lord Vishnu. If the Supreme Lord is pleased, all desires are fulfilled. So she actually observes that, and the Lord comes to her, gives her darshan, and tells her that he will appear as her son to take care of the situation, because he cannot just directly uh, defeat Bali Maharaj for the same reason, because he is protected by the word of the Brahmanas, and the Supreme Lord does not go against the blessings given by Brahmanas. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya. He is the well-wisher of the Brahmanas and the cows. So if the Brahmanas give some blessing, he won't go back. So therefore he said, but because you did, you pleased me so nicely by this vrata, I cannot just not do anything for you. So I will come as your son. And then, but this is a secret, don't tell anyone. If you need success in any activity, then you shouldn't tell it to others. Like that, the Lord assuring her like that. Then the Lord disappears, and then Vamandev appears. So then we will read about Vamandev tomorrow morning. So we will start with chapter 18, Vamandev's appearance, and then he goes to beg from Bali Maharaj. I don't know if we'll have time to read that. Let us see. So we will see how much we'll be able to read. But we'll begin with chapter 18 tomorrow. Tomorrow means my today afternoon. Okay? Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare